Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show Expresso right here on SABC3. The doctor's in the house, which means it's Medical Tuesday Chats. And we're talking about one of the most common complaints that a lot of patients have, other than a cough or joint or back pain. It is tummy aches. And we know how uncomfortable it is when you get those. You don't even know where to lie. Is it on the side, on your stomach? It's just so uncomfortable. Exactly. So give us a call on 021-430-9881 if you've got any questions concerning these. Dr. Green, good morning.
Good morning to you. Good
morning.
morning.
Great to have you here, Doctor. Well, you know what? When it comes to tummy troubles, I can imagine eating leads to a lot of the causes. But what exactly happens to your tummy when you're hungry? Because I know it grumbles. Like I've been experiencing that a lot lately.
Yeah, the stomach is like a muscular bag. Okay, so it's a very, very powerful and strong muscle. Obviously, it needs to be. It's like a washing machine, washing all the time.
Okay.
So it's got to be able to allow turning and facilitate, obviously, the mixing of food to break it down into its final liquid form and then act upon it and so forth. But when the tummy is empty, it sounds like a hollow drum, doesn't it? So
yes.
You often have then these weird sounds coming when it's empty. Then you get juices being released and digestive juices and enzymes and that kind of thing. And that's why you are very aware of it. And obviously the role of hunger and food in different lives, some people respond very quickly to that need and others take a while to respond.
Yeah. Now, in order to keep a healthier digestive system, some people believe in drinking a cup of warm water, perhaps with some lemon in.
Oh, the morning water.
Yeah.
Yes,
and after meals as well. Does that aid the digestive system, or does it interfere with it when you drink a lot of water? Does it dilute the acids that are supposed to...
Great question. So why people do it is to kickstart the gut. In other words, the presence of anything in the gut in the morning starts waking it up, because you've been sleeping for 7 to 9 hours, hopefully, and when you wake up in the morning, your tummy's been dead still, and now obviously the bowel needs to start going and needs to empty and so forth in your routine. So what the water does, or any form of coffee even in the morning, you'll find often after having that first cup, 20 minutes later or 15, you often have the desire to visit the loo. And that does help. But diluting the acids and such, the value of water diluting the foodstuffs aids digestion as well, as long as it's not copious amounts.
Yes.
Some people that want to try and eat less have a glass of water before eating, so that the food content and the weight and the mass in the stomach makes you feel fuller quicker.
Does that work?
Is that
when you eat less. A lot of people do that, yes. Is it healthy? Well, it's not harmful.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that diplomatic answer. It's not harmful.
It's not harmful.
Now, Dr. Darren Green, we spoke about overeating before the festive season, and what happens in a case like this? Like, how much can your stomach really hold? Because I've eaten a big steak before.
It depends on what type of food you're eating.
Okay.
So if you're looking at kilograms, for example, I mean, some people can hit back about 5 cups of rice when they're eating big family lunches, and that's actually quite serious. Because what happens is certain foods, especially things like fiber, swell when water comes into contact with them. Yes. Have some pronutro, for example. Initially, you feel, that went so quickly. And then, like 2 minutes later, when it hits the stomach and when the food actually arrives in the stomach, you feel, oh goodness, now it's swelling, now I'm actually quite full. And that's when, obviously, you then start feeling the effects of having a bloated, full stomach, which can cause secondary health effects.
And speaking of that bloated, full stomach, Zoe was mentioning earlier on that we've seen people with perfectly round beer bellies that do like just... The boop bends. Can we call it that? It's not offensive to do that. All right. What exactly causes that, and why does it stay so perfectly round?
Perfectly symmetrically.
It's like you can take a pin and go...
It doesn't have much to do about the perfect round nature. Remember, we are symmetrical in terms of the stomach and abdominal muscles. So whether they're weak or whether they're strong, you see the symmetry quite easily. Obviously, it's central obesity and obesity from the inside and the outside that makes you develop a bookbends, or what they call central obesity. So between the organs, there's a wrapping sheet called the omentum, and fat gets deposited there, which also pushes the organs and the inside, the intra-abdominal content forward, protruding this round moon that so many of our South African men walk around with.
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll come back and continue chatting with Dr. Green about the tummy and the gut, and especially how to reverse the boop bends, stomach in, chest out type of thing.
There we go.
Give us a call on 021-430-9881.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
Well, we are back with Dr. Darren Green on the couch, in fact, and we are talking about those tummy troubles. We love hearing from you, and at the moment we have Hugo from Johannesburg on the line. Good morning, Hugo.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good, thank you. What's your comment or question for Dr. Darren Green?
Doctor, every time, it doesn't matter what I eat, every time I eat something, if it's now vegetables, if it's fruits, whatever the case may be, my stomach is bloated and it hurts extremely. And there's nothing wrong with my stool, everything goes well. I mean, I eat healthy, I eat a lot of salads, I eat muesli in the morning, and the fruits during the day, but it doesn't matter what I eat, I'm always bloated.
Okay.
Great, great
Thanks,
question.
Vito.
So obviously he mentions that he's got no changes in his stools to suggest bleeding or mucus or anything like that. So what is important is the presence of food in his gut gives him pain. And that obviously means that we need to go and have a look at the lining of the stomach, because when something enters the stomach, if there is something like an ulcer, which is a crater where the lining of the stomach's been disturbed or even damaged and inflamed, you know, it looks like a volcano with a hole in the middle due to the damage, you then could have pain. The nerve endings, obviously, that affect that ulcer could lead to pain. So persistent pain, and if it's related even to healthy foods that are not associated with intolerance profiles in terms of gluten, lactose and all that. I mean, he has it when he eats simple veggies. Yeah. We'd have to see all veggies, certain veggies. Keep a food diary before you go to the doctor. Obviously, that's important. Look at the time and association of the morning, afternoon, or night. Also, look at associations of whether, when you cut certain things out, whether it lessens your pain, yes or no. And then take that food diary with you. It helps the doctor and your gastroenterologist, obviously, to cut through some of the other simple causes and get to the crux of the matter.
I find keeping a food diary helps. I realize that when I eat a green apple first thing in the morning and I have a cup of coffee, I bloat. But if I only eat half the apple, it's not as bad. So it's definitely the combination between the apple and the coffee that doesn't work well for my
chemical reactions happening there. All right. We were talking earlier on about reversing the boopings. Is it as easy as burning or not taking in as many calories as you're using? Is that the simple equation?
Simple equation, basically, but the reverse, remember, has to take place not only on the outside of you losing the fat in the abdominal wall. You need to lose fat which is laid down in sheets in between the organs, and to reverse that process takes time. It means really looking at your diet 80% of the time and long-term commitments. That's why quick fixes often don't work, because we need to look at a long-term commitment.
Exercise and diet, but 80% of it is all about diet. All right, we're going to come back again with Dr. Green talking about indigestion and heartburn. Have you ever heard of dyspepsia, a peptic ulcer, all those kinds of terminologies? And of course, if you have questions, be like Hugo and give us a call on 021 430 9881.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Tuesday morning. This is your feel-good breakfast show, Expresso on SABC3. We're hanging out with Dr. Darren Green and talking about all the kinds of issues that your stomach and your gut can experience that could lead to discomfort, one of which is dyspepsia. Dyspepsia. Put that in your vocabulary and think about it. Or indigestion, as we more commonly know it. So what are the most common causes of dyspepsia, and what exactly is it?
Yeah, so dyspepsia refers to basically discomfort. So there's an abnormality of digestion, and that means while your body is digesting the food, or your stomach and your digestive tract, you have then bloating and discomfort. That could, flatulence could involve gas, it could involve pain, cramping, etc. So you get two different. The causes are basically divided up into ulcers, associated ulcer pathology, and then non-ulcer dyspepsia, which would be your food intolerances and that branch of things. So those are the big groups.
Okay. Well, Doctor, we have another caller on the line, Chandra from Pretoria. Good morning.
Hi.
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 Morning.
What's your comment or question for Dr. Darren Green?
Okay, well, it's just quite simple. I have got colon problems. I've got irritable bowel. I've got a... can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I've also got a rupture in my stomach. I've had numerous colonoscopies and gastroscopies, alkaline diet I'm on, and nothing's helping, and I vomit probably all day long. So I don't eat, and I've lost 10 kilos. So I hope that the nice doctor can help me.
Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Not a way that we want to lose weight, hey? There is no worse symptom than nausea for me. I'd rather have pain than nausea. So she describes an array of procedures and a multiple history of having gut problems. Interesting, where the world is going now, where your hope should be, is looking also at the environment of the gut specifically. Has probiotics, it has prebiotics. prebiotics are the things that probiotics feed on to stay alive. That's your good bacteria, for example, to ensure a balance of the acid levels and pH and digestive process. There are conditions like irritable bowel syndrome that are functional disorders of the gut. In other words, structurally, we go and look with cameras, taking photographs all over the gut, looking for abnormalities, and it's completely normal. The blood tests are normal, the inflammatory markers are normal, all the tests are normal, yet the person has gross indigestion and a feeling of cramping. And the reason for that is a functional disorder. There's no organic pathology. In other words, it's associated with a functional problem in the gut. And a lot of work's obviously still being done in that. What is, however, interesting and hopeful is that people have identified that the gut itself might have a mind of its own. We all think that the brain is the central computer in the human body and controls the release of everything from the top. But what we're looking at now is that we've evolved to such a degree in terms of our digestive systems that there are local mechanisms that control inflammation and responses to absorption in the gut, where the nervous system is actually thought to be a lot more complex on a local level with the nervous innervation of the gut. And the gut as a sensory organ is quite remarkable because it responds to your thoughts, it responds to your stress levels, and it responds obviously to your diet. So the hope is that that's where a lot of the research is going now. In terms of specific help for the caller, obviously she needs to try and stick to one specific gastroenterologist that's gone through the journey with her, because then she won't duplicate things like these multiple tests and procedures and so forth, and the costs obviously go through the roof. And also email people all over the world that are leaders in their field, and look, don't give up, and look for people that are really passionate about your kind of problem. That's what my advice would be.
Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing your call with us. We'll have more from Dr. Darren Green very shortly, where we address one of the issues that the lady did speak about, which is IBS as well. And just general tips on how to maintain a healthy gut. Do give us a call on 021 430 9881.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Certainly learning a lot from Dr. Green this morning, all about gut health. And we were talking just during this break now about ulcers, a peptic ulcer that occurs in the small intestine versus a gastric ulcer that happens in your stomach. We're going to talk right now quickly about what exactly causes them. But we have a caller on the line right now. Marita from Cape Town. Good morning.
Morning, guys.
Great to have you. What's your question or comment?
Actually, I would like to know, with my first... Morning.
Yes, go ahead. Marita, go ahead.
Yes, now I can hear. I would like to find, with my first son... hello?
Yes, go ahead, please. We can hear you.
Sorry.
Don't listen to the
with
TV, listen to the phone.
Okay, with my first son, about 5 years ago, I had severe heartburn, and I never had before. And after that, with my second son, I just had severe morning sickness. But since then, it's a year later now, I cannot sleep on my left-hand side. When I do, at night, even if I don't eat 3 hours before I go to bed, I always vomit. But when I sleep on my right-hand side, nothing happens. Then I'm fine.
Okay.
All right. Dr. Green.
Yeah, so it sounds very mechanical, doesn't it? If it's positional, that she's eliciting nausea specifically. One of the things that when someone has persistent vomiting at that frequency that needs to be looked at is the gallbladder. And gallstones and a sonar might be a simple test just to have a look at that. But in terms of reflux and heartburn during pregnancy, very big symptom for pregnant ladies. They really suffer with heartburn. That's because of the increased abdominal pressure and the increasing uterus. Pressing up on the stomach, the valve that seals off the stomach, for example, can lose tone, and then the acid content can move up as well. So that's something worth noting. But in terms of that mechanical thing on the left-hand side, I wouldn't leave it. It's something that if it causes you to vomit, certainly go and have a look at the diaphragm pathology, the anatomy of the diaphragm. Look at a hernia even, where pressure on the left-hand side might be a little bit obstructed due to the structure of organs. On the left-hand side, you've got the base of the lung, you've got the spleen, obviously, as well, and the stomach in the middle. So definitely worth having a look.
Thank you very much for that call, Marita.
Yeah, thank you. And then, Doctor, we were talking earlier about ulcers.
Yes.
So they're like volcanic craters, as I said, where the skin is damaged due to inflammation, due to having lots of anti-inflammatories, taking too many painkillers, due to alcohol, due to smoking as well. And stress is probably the biggest culprit as well, despite diet in this case, that contributes towards the acid pumps in the stomach, pumping out too much acid. And what happens also when you're stressed, you often don't eat, or you eat too much. And if you don't eat and you've got all this acid coming out and being pumped into the tummy, it then eats the lining of the stomach, giving you a gastritis and can predispose you to developing holes, actually. A perforation is a complicated ulcer which can bleed. A perforation is where that ulcer gets so deep as it gets eaten away in the lining of the muscle layer that it makes a hole in the stomach, and then the content can actually leak out into the gut and cause dire consequences. So certainly ulcers. And then peptic ulcers, obviously, as the food leaves the stomach, it goes into the small intestine, the duodenum, etc. as well. You also have symptoms specifically after meals where you have pain, and you look at that association in time as well. People often describe that pain as a really sharp, burning pain in the pit of their stomach as well, and definitely can't just be left alone.
It seems like stress is just the problem or the cause of everything. But what's your body trying to do when it's pumping out all these acids in order
Great
creating
question.
ulcer? What's happening? Why
Great
is stress doing
question.
that?
So, what is stress? It's when you feel that your survival is being threatened, not so? So just as if a lion had to walk in here right now in an acute stress situation, your stomach would start pumping acid. Why does it do that? It's preparing for the emergency, because you need to fight the lion or fight the threat, for example. Your body pumps out acid to digest the food that's left in your stomach immediately so that you can use it for the muscles.
Oh my word!
That's how you create it, that's how you design. So it digests it quickly so that you can use it in an emergency.
Your body's trying to save you. That's... Whew. And mind blown. Thank you so much, Dr. Green.
Pleasure.
We should have more gut health checks and talks. They really are insightful. Thanks so much to all of our callers for your insightful questions and views. And we'll do this again next week, sir.
Thank you.
Signore.